Mr. Minister, Air Chief Marshal, other senior officers of the armed forces, we are assembled here to celebrate, celebrate the memory of a person who, in my judgment, is one of the half a dozen or less, 2 or 3 people who have understood and written about the requirements of India's security in a comprehensive sense. Its link with internal security and the external environment of a world which is not adrift, which is in a state of dynamic transition. For me personally, it's an occasion to pay tribute to the memory of a very dear friend. Jasjeet was already known when I came to India after in posts abroad for 14 years. And I came here to take over the post of Foreign Secretary at the time, Mr. Minister. And one day he caught hold of me and he said in very polite, friendly words that he would like to take some time with me from time to time. So I said, you'd be most welcome. Later on, he was Director General of ITSA. So there was occasion for me when I was in service and particularly after service to see a lot more of him. I asked him, I said, I'm a civilian. I sometimes have spoken as Foreign Secretary about the requirements of our services, but there are so many other people. So he said, I know your history. You dealt with disarmament in the United Nations, and at the time I was a member of the United Nations Disarmament Advisory Board. He knew all about it. So he said, security cannot be considered in isolation from external services. He was more aware of it. Subramaniam was another person. And he has written numerous books on different aspects of security. We discussed cyber was coming into fashion at the time. To begin with, it was information warfare. Then that became out of date because technology was moving so fast that it was difficult to keep pace with it. But here was this man who was ahead of it all the time. He was traveling around. He was sensing the growing difficulties in securing India's security, especially, and he was not. He as a director of ITSA and as an independent thinker, as a founder of the forum in which he dragged me into it. Overall, complete security of the country. He was worried, I know. This was my worry. He shared it with me. He also had been thinking of it. How short of strength the Air Force had been all the time. And I regret to say, Mr. Minister, I think if you can put a word somewhere, please do. We need to expand this service rapidly. Perhaps not for all the 10, 15 squadrons is the established strength, but at least, let's say, we've got these 3 squadrons, 36 planes from France. Why not get another 36? Strengthen the Air Force. Because, Mr. Minister, the security of India, the threat to India's security in the future is going to come from the oceans, and Air Force has a role for oceanic security also. The future wars, they'll not be fought on the northern frontier anymore. I think the Chinese have drawn their lessons. There will be tensions, and I think we have a good army, strong army. Perhaps I think it's the largest army in the world now, because the Chinese have reduced their forces. They have given them larger technological muscle. I think probably the army needs to think on the same lines, but I won't say much about it. But I am worried. I sometimes say to myself, why do I worry? I'm 97 years old. There are younger people, sir, like you, who are in charge of affairs, the Air Chief Marshal, other senior Army, Navy officers. They should worry about these things. We have a very good Navy, but it's a small Navy. We have a very good Air Force, but it's a small Air Force. And you have enemies on your left, you have enemies on your right, you have enemies on top, and you have to cater to these needs. And I hope, sir, the message will go to the government from you, from this audience, that two areas which require urgent attention: expansion of the Indian Air Force, rapid expansion, and enhancing its technological muscle. Similarly, expansion of the Indian Navy. The Chinese started building a navy 10, 15 years ago, and they now boast they have more ships than the Americans have. But we know the story of the Armada, the Spanish Armada. Yes. Huge naval force, and it was scattered to the seas, burnt by a smaller navy, but which was tactics-wise, training-wise, much inured to the requirements of naval defenses. I don't want to say any more, sir, and I request you to kindly address the gathering now.